And yet he would easily, like sometimes the Neptune sun is messianic and projective. I think maybe that was so with his understanding and his take on, and thank goodness he had that, because that got, the archetypal synchronicity, got new ideas out. But at the same time, in the projecting, he could project, but when it came to reacting, he would want to be reacting that people would believe him completely in that. So this sense of belief and faith coming in and struggling with his son, this really represented, I mean, when he studied from Freud, Freud was very practical, down to earth analyst, working very specifically on things, and especially on the sexual complexes. Well, Jung is not, even though he has all the fixity, he has this evasive side. He has this Neptune square the sun. So how reliable, how loyal, how faithful is a really questionable issue in here. It's essential within him. So he needs to have that security, but he has doubts or confusions around how faithful to be. So because of this, he would have an inherent block against just saying everything's just sexual, what you do, that's why you got what you want. Or why your repressions, he would think there must be other reasons, it can't be just that. So his Mars is up high in the chart, highest planet elevated, and so he would fight that interpretation, although he probably justifies it more strong, the Freudian perspective, more strongly than anything else. But this also followed the Sun Neptune with him and Freud around the nature of belief, the collective unconscious, of mystical things, of occult things, of astrological and mystical things he believed in. And Freud would think he's spacing out and he's losing it. So they fell apart over that, their partnership fell apart over that belief or loss that to Freud would be an evasiveness, to Jung would be just a belief. Or so just, we're going to work on this as we go through the times, but it's important to see this Sun Neptune really predominant in his chart. So you see it in his, he got married, and within 3 or 4 months of getting married to the most wealthiest person in Switzerland, he starts having an affair and brings a third woman into the relationship so he could have sex with other women, which he was never the loyal husband. But she was the loyal person who kept supporting and financially supporting his trips, his things, and provided his security. She had kids too. She had kids. She wanted the kids, and she was a royalty, but she paid a high price because he wasn't the loyal factor. So controversial thing. Like, he's a controversial character, like, so he influenced the world, thinking of the world tremendously. Both he and Freud did, but I'm just trying with the two charts, taking this chart next week we're going to be using Freud's chart. So and we've been doing this all through the classes just to get a sense of the development of this and the complexes and the understanding between these two, and to see what would show out of it. Okay, no, I'm not ready to go here yet. Sorry. Okay, so there's the Venus, there's the Sun. His Mars is up high. It's up in the 11th house. There's a need to do things with others, with peers, with others, to impress people. There's a need to do things to impress other people. But there's a strong ability to respond to whether other people are impressed or not positively. So in his aligning and working with Freud, they were working together, but Freud was pushing one way and he was not feeling exactly the same. He was being more evasive around that. So we had a different approach to sexuality and to energy. But his energy, there's not any really difficult aspects to it. There's no squares or oppositions or conjunctions. It stands on its own in Sagittarius. So Mars exaggerates its energy or expands its energy. The need to travel, to see other things, to go other places, to do things. That's the enthusiasm of Mars and Sag, is ruled by Jupiter, which causes the problems for the Venus, which really, technically, is classical Freudian stuff. Okay, but that is sextiles to Mars, that is sextiles to Jupiter. It implies that he didn't run into interference with people directly. He could make things, he had a fairly positive Mars of going to do things, and would be probably averse to thinking that was the cause of things. He would be thinking more likely his choices would be, or his needs. So then the Jupiter's in the 8th house of social consciousness, of understanding, of psychology, of death, of understanding complexes, how people come together or don't come together. In Libra, ruled by Venus, which is ruled by the moon. You see these things, and these are they all tie into it, and it rules the Mars. So Jupiter's prominent. The square to Venus and Mercury, and the Sun and Venus is a strong factor here. What's right? What's wrong? What do you understand? Running across situations that he would always be trying to understand, because he has the stress aspects there. His life would provide lots of ample struggles in his way, which would refine the ability to gain experiences and gain insight and gain understanding. So having some social understanding, some insight of how people to come there, how things are shared, how it should be done. This is the Jupiter there. Okay. There certainly was pressures in life as to what's right or wrong, around commitments, around relationships. Even when you start thinking, okay, so let me just go ahead a little bit first. But Saturn in the Aquarius rising, Saturn in Aquarius in the 1st house. This is a serious identity. That's why you generally see him always serious. You don't see too many pictures of him laughing. No, he's more serious. He is ambitious. He's serious. He wants to be respected for his ideas, his knowledge. He knows what he knows. Don't tell me what I don't know. I know what I know. Okay, like that's. But the Leo. So he wants to respect it. He thinks he sees it all, but his behavior, the Mars, the Jupiter, his understanding, causes social complexes, what's right, what's wrong, to the Venus, to the Sun, and the Neptune ties into the Sun. So this is, I mean, he can't exactly live up to his own identity. His identity was a serious teacher, knowledgeable doctor, PhD person. Saturn, of course, the knowing and the seeing things in a new way, understanding things, is attorney inside. But when you think of him in terms of 8th house, the understanding of the responsibilities of relationships, of kids. Well, he had kids, his wife had kids, but he has the kids, but he has an affair with another woman that he's bringing into his life, and the kids are growing up in that environment. It's not, if you had a daughter that was tied into that or was trying to relate to him, you would be threatened by him. Okay, so this is a puzzling thing, whereas many people would go to him to help him get advice with the problems, but on his personal world, they were in his personal world of relating, taking things in, how he was living. His story was very different. He identified to the career, and he worked to build up the career to get the respect. But his Saturn, that Saturn squares the Pluto and squares the moon. I have to do this, I have to do this. I need to have security. I need to have a fairly rich marriage or rich things so I can advance my career, my identity, so I can accomplish things. Because I'm useless if I'm poverty, if I'm poor. So, but in getting married to get that establishment, within 3 or 4 months, he was already bringing a third person into his marriage. The wife didn't throw him out. She went along with it. And he pushed the other person into the relationship. So that went on for years. In fact, after that person was his secretary, he's had affairs all his life. And so there are some questions, Jupiter, of his integrity. It's like how he could teach and how he could see people, and how he lived up to things himself. Two different things. So towards the end of his life, towards the later years, the Aquarius Saturn, his respected psychologist, he just wanted to be in an ivory tower, live in a tower, be alone by himself where no one could reach him. Because what were they going to talk about? All the other things that weren't fitting into just his career. This is like why the seesaw, there's two sides. how he sets the world up and how he lives in his chart. Okay, the Uranus, the unconventional relationships, excitement, wanting or excitement through relationships, shocks through relationships, that's there. Sudden beginnings, sudden endings of relationships, just unstable, causes a lot of anxiety of how to control it. Okay, now his Neptune is in Taurus. He has Neptune and Pluto in Taurus. It's another time. When Pluto went through Taurus, it took 38 years to go through Taurus. When it goes through Scorpio, it went through Scorpio in, what was it, 12, 14 years? Yeah, okay, so, but he has his Neptune in Taurus, further creating the fantasy and the dream about appreciation of a Taurus that feeds into the moon by sign. It's in the second house of money and resources, the dream. I need to have the dream. I need to have this much money. I need to have, yeah, and Pisces rules that second house cusp, Jupiter, shared resources. I need to have what I need can be tied into what the partner needs or partner has. And the Aries is intercepted in it, so the Mars gets pulled into there too. So Venus and Mars, what I want, how do I do to get it, is all in the second house with Neptune in there saying something's not as it seems. So really, he had the dream of how he would get money and how he would build up his career and how he would do it against the social structures that he was born in and he grew up in, which is not the social structures of now, but he had two different worlds. Okay, and the Pluto we've talked about. The only other thing is the Pluto squares to Saturn and squares and opposes the midheaven. And so there was a strong control, a thinking about control, relating to father, relating to career. I have to control this, I have to control this. They were powerful, strong. So this came out in his battle between, I need to have a certain way, I got to control this a certain way when he wasn't being appreciated. Like being with Freud, who was already established, an older man established, and liking him as a student and being a good student, there was a strong link, and it was a good thing for him. He would be gaining by that association. So he went along reflecting and adjusting and adapting to that situation. But as soon as the more Freud began to say this his spiritual or his mystical side or evasive side, the more he got threatened. The more he got threatened, the more severe and more detached he would get. Okay, I don't want to spend more time on that, but his motivation, the IC, he's motivated by Taurus, by appreciation, by resources, by security. So much of his chart is tied up to this whole point of getting what I want, needing this, I need this, I have to have this security. Okay, he needed to have his degree to get his credibility. He needed to be married to have his stability. He needed to have the money. They say married the money to have the stability. But then, if he wasn't appreciated, he would have trouble with when he didn't appreciate it, when he didn't want something. If someone else came in and he wanted it, he wouldn't. That was his weak spot. Okay, we talked in the Senate, the midheaven and Scorpio, the drive to accomplish, to achieve, and some of the struggles involved with it. The Sun in the seventh house with the Leo on this. Okay, I'm not gonna. We'll come back and around that a little bit, but we're just going to go on. So you have to get a take on the natal chart. You have to have an anchor on the natal chart to be able to stand the significance of events. If you just put a bunch of events down, you have to work it into how it works into the natal chart, into his determination, into his serious structure, his ambition, his inhibition and his ambition, and into his sense of his importance on partnership, the Sun in the seventh house, and generally it means lucky or fortunate partnerships, and his fear of not being appreciated, not being secure, and the need to understand why. Okay.